we'll talk about this book, the basic rudiments of this book, the key to theosophy, the next 40 or 45 minutes. As just now told by Brother Mahapatra, is one of the best basic fundamental textbooks of theosophy, which gives a panoramic view of the Theosophical Society and the Theosophical principles, what we call them as theosophy. The author of the book, we all know, is Madam H.P. Blavatsky, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. She lived for 60 eventful years between the years 1831 to 1891. The Key to Theosophy is authored by her. It was published in the year 1889. This book was released immediately after the publication of The Secret Doctrine. If all of you remember, the introduction of the Secret Doctrine says the book was either released towards the end of 1888 or early part of 1889. So this book, The Key to Theosophy, was published in the year 1889. And this book was published by the Theosophical Publishing Company Limited, London. This is the original publisher who has published it from London, the Theosophical Publishing Company Limited, London. Naturally, the rights to publish this book in India were requested, and they were given first to the Theosophical Publishing Company Limited, India, within brackets. And then the Indian version, which is an expanded version, verbatim, was actually published in the year 1931. Much later, we from Adyar, through the Theosophical Publishing House, published the same book in a concise form, in a simplified form, edited duly by Madam Clara N. Codd. That's the book we normally follow. But then, if one wants to lay their hands on the original verbatim reproduction of the book as written by Madam Blavatsky, one has to get hold of the copy which is published by the Theosophy Publishing House or Publishing Company Limited, which is now functioning from Bombay in India, which is called now Mumbai, I guess. It is Bombay some time back. So this is what the introduction of the book as far as the production details are concerned. And this book, The Key to Theosophy, gives a clear exposition of theosophy in the form of questions and answers. And the same method of explaining theosophy was also adopted by Brother Pabri, who produced books which explains the basic details of theosophy. Normally we skip the title page rather casually, but then if one reads through the title page of the book, it states that the questions and answers relate to ethics, science and philosophy. Like we have the tagline of the Secret Doctrine saying it is the synthesis of religion, philosophy and science. Here we have a small explanation-like thing which says that the questions and answers are related to ethics, science and philosophy. And she says the study of the above mentioned subjects is why the Theosophical Society was founded. This is what she says in the title page. So, we understand that the Theosophical Society in philosophy. Madam H.P. Blavatsky dedicates this book to her pupils, to her students. And she says that the pupils may learn and teach in their turn. This is what she wished for. So all of us who are pupils or students of Madam Blavatsky should learn all the contents well enough so that we can teach others. This is what is expected of us. That is the right. First, by the type.
That lot of mistake. Is it only right?
Voice not audible clearly.
Some net problem is going on, perhaps.
Huh?
Voice, sir, not audible.
Is breaking.
Actually, energy level is 0.
What a problem. Is it better now? I have removed the earphones. Is it better now?
Yes, it is better now.
Yeah.
Better you minimize your screen. Just
Minimize. How do I do it?
yes.
Can you help me in this?
It is now larger. The screen is your
Is
face.
it now okay? I have minimized it, I guess. I'm appearing like a postal stamp now. I hope I have minimized. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, you go on speaking, but the video will not be okay because your picture, your face is larger than in our screen because of recording.
But it is here.
Yes, it is now. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I put off the video otherwise?
No.
Will that help?
No, you can use.
Will it help now?
Instead of laptop, you can use also your mobile.
My laptop has got a problem with its microphone.
Yes.
My laptop has got a problem with the microphone. That's why I'm using a mobile.
Now
And,
mobile, you use the mobile, so it will be better.
I'm using mobile only. Now I'm using the mobile only.
Okay.
My laptop has a problem, so I have put it aside. I use it only for reading and sending mails.
We can hear you very clearly, so this should be all right.
I'll do that.
We have seen.
I have removed my picture is not important. My face is not important. Voice perhaps is important.
Yeah.
So I have removed my face from the screen.
Yeah.
It's not a great consequence. Right. Let's hope the disturbance will not persist with us. So she has dedicated this book to all the pupils that they may learn and teach in their turn. So all of us who are her students, we are all her students, we should learn all the contents well enough to teach others. That's the wish of our teacher, Madam Blavatsky. This is what she wants us to do. So Efficacy in her preface says, the purpose of the book is very clear in the title itself. No more explanation is required, she says. A key has been provided by Madam Blavatsky to open the door of theosophy and to study deeply the truths so that the truths become part of our life. They should become part and parcel of our life. This key, which has been provided, she says is operational at the mental level. The key which she has provided, she says, is operational at the mental level. It paves the way for us to reach and understand the divine wisdom. It paves the way for us to reach and understand the divine wisdom. A thorough introduction of theosophy in all its principal aspects has been provided in this book, and this book is running to about 370 pages, 367 to be precise, including index. We are now talking about the exhaustive presentation, the original publication, which has come from England, which is also produced from Mumbai with Theosophical Publishing Company Limited. Having said that, having said whatever she has to say, that the title presents everything clearly and all that, she says, Madam Blavatsky says, this book is not a complete or exhaustive textbook of theosophy. It is not a complete or exhaustive book on theosophy. The contents given should enthuse us to study theosophy more deeply and fully and comprehend it in all its aspects. It is difficult to encompass the whole gamut of theosophy into a book of this size. Talking about the size, the original size of the book published from London was a quarto size, like we have the paper which we use for taking Xerox copies of that size. But in India, the size was reduced and we have a very handy, good book to hold on to. So we should understand that this book, The Key to Theosophy, gives us a broad picture, an outline of the wisdom religion. This is one term which she has used in this book. Wisdom - religion. If someone wants to refer or see theosophy as is the wont of all the Indians as a religion, it is called the wisdom religion. The book tries to explain in detail what is that wisdom - religion and what is theosophy, and it also tries to show and explain what is not theosophy also. It says what is theosophy, and it also tries to explain what is not theosophy. Because we hear a lot of people bringing some subject as other and proposing, is it not part of theosophy? So we hear a lot of members doing that. So we can say this is not so. Everything is not theosophy. Theosophy perhaps is everything, but everything is not theosophy. It looks a bit paradoxical, but this is true. The book provides those Western readers. It is mainly addressed to the Western readers. The book provides to those Western readers who have raised lots of objections and raised a lot of questions about theosophy and the Theosophical Society. This book tries to give certain basic concepts so that the Westerner can understand the Theosophical point of view. While explaining, Madame Blavatsky has drawn lots of references from the Bible and from the religion of Christianity, which is familiar to the Westerners, so that the Westerners can easily follow, they can easily compare, and if they want, they can come out of the fallacies if there are any. So they can, if they want to, understand the true spirit and the principal contents of theosophy by studying, comparing, and arriving at what is theosophy in its essence. So they can, if they want to, understand the true spirit and the principal contents of theosophy by studying, comparing, and arriving at or understanding what is exactly theosophy. The whole purpose of this book, she says, is to make theosophy intelligible in easy and simple language. This is what she says. We need to apply our mind to understand theosophy, says HPB. We need to apply our mind to understand theosophy, says Madame Blavatsky. It is a hope. It is hoped by the author, not hope. It is hoped by the author that the readers will study, think, and own the concepts of theosophy. Owning the concepts of theosophy, internalizing the concepts of theosophy, that would become part and parcel of our life. Madame Blavatsky says, maybe the language is inadequate to describe the profound contents of theosophy. Maybe the language has limitations. So she says maybe the language is inadequate to explain the profound contents of theosophy. But even then, the contents of theosophy have been present in this book in an easy language. Efficacy says, theosophy will remain as a riddle, a puzzle for those who are mentally lazy and obtuse. This is there in the book. HPB says in introduction. HPB says theosophy will remain as a riddle for those who are mentally lazy and obtuse. Obtuse means those who are either insensitive or slow to understand. So one has to be very alert and up to the mark to understand the contents of theosophy. So one is having this laid-back approach to understand theosophy. One has got this laid-back approach to understand theosophy. It may be difficult for that person to grasp the essence of theosophy. She says again and again, mere understanding is not good enough. The ideas of theosophy understood should be translated and should get reflected in one's life. So that's the whole purpose. It's not just for mere intellectual understanding or professing it to somebody else, but it is for the individual to act upon it. Madame Blavatsky says, theosophy is always practical. She says it's practical theosophy, and when it is practiced, it becomes a tool, a helping tool to carry on our life sanely and wisely. This is what is expected out of us. HPB says man has to exert. Man has to exert means put a lot of efforts to progress spiritually. He has to put a lot of efforts to progress spiritually. Talking about the practical aspects of theosophy, she cautions us elsewhere that we should not rush and destroy ourselves in trying to know or to serve others. We have to retain ourselves, and we are asked to not to rush and destroy ourselves in trying to know or serve. She gives some examples in the book of how people got destroyed because they were too foolhardy. HPB says man has to exert, put all efforts to progress spiritually. One has to work hard, even to put or even to add muscles to this physical body. Similarly, one has to exert mentally to understand theosophy and the Theosophical Society's work, and to understand all about the science of spirituality. One has to put efforts and take a vow to lead the right kind of life. And she says very clearly, efforts of others will not give us results. If somebody has put efforts, we will not be able to reap the results. We have to put the effort by ourselves after all. And we have to put that effort in the right direction to get right, helpful, precise results. She uses the word vicarious. Vicarious is the word she has used in the book. It's the word which sort of describes how Christ was hung on the cross. And a lot of the Christian people believe because that he has suffered like that, the benefit will accrue to them. So this sort of vicarious acts of others will not really help us to understand or follow theosophy. This is what she had to suggest in the book. The author has presented ideas, suggested a way to reach the goal of perfection. But it is up to the reader to understand the ideas. He has to walk on the path which is suggested. Normally these days they say, walk the talk. That's exactly what a student has to do. So to progress on the physical, on the mental and spiritual spheres, exertion and earnest efforts is a must, says Madame Blavatsky in the course of writing this book. We will not get results for others' exertion, is what is already explained. If I have headache, I have to take efforts to free myself of that headache by either doing pranayama or take a medicine if it is required. So somebody else taking a medicine, somebody else doing pranayama will not relieve my headache. That's perhaps what she meant by saying one has to put his own efforts to understand theosophy. And during the time when this book was written, or even earlier, from 1885, there was a lot of misinformation, false propaganda that was spread about the Theosophical Society, especially all the adverse criticism heaped upon the Theosophical Society and Madame Blavatsky post the controversy of the colons, Alex and his wife, who came to serve Madame Blavatsky as servants, but then they did the mischief. Madame Blavatsky tried her best through this book to present the correct version of theosophy and defended the Theosophical Society with all her vigor. And she says, That's one of the prime duties of the members of the Theosophical Society, to defend the Theosophical Society and give what is the real essence of Theosophy to others. So this is the prime duty, she says. Work of this nature has to be done by each member. She goes on to explain there are quite few others, other than those who are criticizing, who are genuinely interested in knowing what is Theosophy. So it is to them, book is addressed to them. What is the real work of the Theosophical Society? What is the real essence of Theosophy? She has explained all that in this book. HPB tried her best through this book to give the details of the working of the Theosophical Society, how Theosophical Society works for the human welfare. Madam Blavatsky felt that there was need to present Theosophy in simple, easy terms, using simple language without using the technical words. Maybe that is what we have to take a cue from her and do that sort of a explanation of Theosophy when we are talking to the freshers. Most of the time we talk to the members of the Theosophical Society who know all this, but when we are talking to the outsiders, perhaps this is what we need to do, use simple language without using the technical words. A careful study of this book, Key to Theosophy, will enable us to present Theosophy in the way in which she wanted us to do, especially during our public lectures when we go out and talk in public. H.P. Blavatsky felt that this book will clear all the misgivings, all the misunderstandings people had about Theosophy and the Theosophical Society, especially about the details about the masters and the elder brethren. HPB, as you all know, was the first corresponding secretary of the Theosophical Society at its founding. Brother Alcott was the president and she was called the corresponding secretary. She used to answer all the questions, even in those days, those which she received, sent into her by her pupils, who used to ask her questions, asking her to explain about Theosophy and the various concepts in Theosophy. And all those questions which she received, all the questions which were raised by her pupils, and sometimes she anticipated some other questions which are likely to be questioned by others, and she answered those questions also straight and forthright and included all of them into this book. So she has made a vigorous, very strong, straight presentation of Theosophy in this book. All the questions she so received from members were included in this book, and the questions were arranged subject-wise in this book. So we have an index, we have subject-wise division of all the questions and answers. So it looks derivative. In fact, if we complete one chapter, the next question in the next chapter is actually referring to the answer of the previous chapter, previous answer given to the previous question in the previous chapter. So that's how the derivative presentation of Theosophy has been attempted by Madame Blavatsky in this book. So the book, The Key to Theosophy, gives a comprehensive view of what is Theosophy and the purpose and aims of the Theosophical Society. She gives a very clear explanation of the objects of the Theosophical Society. So HPB wrote in the magazine Lucifer in the year 1889. We all know she left India and Adyar on 31st March 1885. and whether she contributed to the magazine, The Theosophist, it's something which has to be verified. But she wrote in the magazine Lucifer, which she started in 1889, about this book, The Key to Theosophy. She says this book, this new book, new presentation, explains in clear language what esoteric theosophy actually believes and what it doesn't believe, and what is that which is rejected completely. Rejected completely. So it talks about the esoteric theosophy, what it actually believes and what it doesn't believe, and what is that which is rejected completely. So she believed and hoped that after publication of this book, The Key to Theosophy, no more unkind, vicious accusations will be hurled on our heads. She meant on our heads, the Theosophical Society and the Theosophists. She paid a price for being truthful to the knowledge which she has gathered and presented. But she wanted others to not to face this criticism, understand this philosophy thoroughly, and present these ideas very carefully. So the book, like other books, was tampered with by others after the demise of Blavatsky, says the original publisher from London. This book, like other books, was tampered, and after the death of Madame Blavatsky in year 1891, says the original publisher, the Theosophical Publishing Company, London. So lots of changes have taken place, lots of revisions were done, removal of the original answers were done, removal of some pages were also attempted. So all these had been perpetrated on this book. The original publisher says a lot of tampering was done. So in the year 1920, the United Lodge of Theosophists, Los Angeles, published again the original version of the book verbatim. So till then, perhaps there was only one book which came out from London, and brought out the book, The Key to Theosophy, as it was originally published. So this is a contribution of the United Lodge of Theosophists of Los Angeles in the year 1920. What HPB said about theosophy exactly is now available in the enlarged version which Theosophical Publishing Company, India, has also produced. So this is something which we have. We have both the versions in our Theosophical Publishing House bookshop. The yellow one, which is the enlarged edition, the blue one, which is the edited version of Madame Clara Court. So what we have in the yellow version is the photo print of the original. So the book is handy if someone wants to know what exactly HPB had to say about a particular subject in theosophy or a particular aspect of theosophy. So this is the contribution which he has made through this book. Theosophy, he says, is divine wisdom in its essence. Theosophy is not an armchair philosophy, not a prescriptional one. It's a practical one, as we have seen already. It is not an armchair philosophy where one would only prescribe what others should do. So this particular book will guide us in our daily life. It will be a helpful, do-it-yourself sort of book. The enlarged edition has 15 sections. Our edition has 14 sections. So the enlarged edition has 15 sections besides the index. The book deals with what is theosophy in a succinct way. These are the objects of the Theosophical Society. Then there is one section especially explaining whether theosophy is esoteric or exoteric. Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky says, is for masses, not for the chosen few. So she says theosophy is for the masses. How the Theosophical Society works depends on the efficacy of the members. That's what she explained in the book. And according to her, not all members are sincere. Answering a question, she says this: not all the members of the Theosophical Society are sincere and can't fit into the description of a theosophist. So this is what she had to say, because one has to be sincere, one has to follow the principles to be called a theosophist. Mere member doesn't become a theosophist. Merely become a member doesn't make one a theosophist. This is what perhaps she meant. She then gave the fundamental teachings of theosophy. They were given in this book. She explains man and his nature. This is a very authentic version. Later on, people have tampered with that also. The man and his nature, the way they explain is something which they understood. But she had given a particular method of presentation. This is a diagram which is there in the expanded version, which she gives the Sanskrit terms, the theosophical terms, etc. So she gave the details of man and his nature. She talks about the law of karma, death, life after death, how we can remember the past lives. She talks about reincarnation, and interestingly, more questions have been answered on the subject of the mysteries of reincarnation. She talks about the ego as against the personality as explained by the theosophical literature. She also talks about various planes, the astral plane, the Devachanic plane in particular. And she talks about the mind, the work of the mind, the thinking principle. And she talks eloquently about practical theosophy. And she added the work of the members of the Theosophical Society. She deals with the duties of a theosophist. She talks about Mahatmas. She juxtaposes marriage, education with theosophy. She compares theosophy with so many other subjects and gives what is theosophy. She talks about selflessness, altruism, and charity. She discussed about the future of theosophy and the Theosophical Society. She says if 3 earnest members are there, the Theosophical Society will continue. And theosophy is something which is always present or always available to humanity. So, Theosophical Society, 3 members, earnest members, and the children of the Theosophists are there who are going to be the members of the future Theosophical Society. The future Theosophical Society will be run or will be participated by the members' children. That's what she said in the book. Very importantly, she also explains all about spiritualism, which was mistaken as spirituality by the Westerners. That spiritualism was one dealing with the spirits of the dead. That was mistaken as spirituality by the Westerners. So she explained a lot to them and educated all those Westerners as to what is spirituality. In fact, 15 of them, including William Kong Judge, an Irish lawyer, and Madame Blavatsky and Alcott, they formed the Theosophical Society to explain the unexplained laws of nature and powers latent in man. So that was the purpose, and to present the Eastern wisdom to the Westerners. That was the original purpose, original object of the Theosophical Society. She says theosophy is divine wisdom. She says it is the wisdom of gods. We're using the small g here, not a god, wisdom of the gods, godly natured people. She explains what is the efficacy of prayer He explains what is the efficacy of prayer. It's a long series of questions there, and what prayer is all about. She says prayer is not seeking or submitting a petition to an anthropomorphic God. Prayer is not seeking or submitting a petition to an anthropomorphic God. That is, a man-made or created form called God, created in his own image. So this is what we have done, explained in this book. Theosophy, she says, is archaic, pristine, older than man. The earliest reference she gives is of the 3rd century of Ammonius Saccas. At that point of time it was called the eclectic theosophy. Her answers to the questions are always straight and direct. She talks of what one should do, even for self-improvement. There is a chapter for self-improvement. She declares that we are not here to work for our own development, but our duty is to work for others, welfare of others. And she says in one sentence, theosophy is altruism. We can get to know the builder of the temple, this body, by cleansing our bodies. We have the other bodies also along with this physical body. We have to cleanse our bodies. We have to cleanse our actions, thought, and words, and reach divinity. This is what she says about what one has to do in this life of ours. And now, answering one question of occultists and theosophists, she very cryptically says, a man may be a very good theosophist indeed, whether in or outside the society, without being in any way an occultist. But no one can be true occultist without being a real theosophist. No one can be a true occultist without being a real theosophist. Otherwise, he is simply a black magician, whether conscious or unconscious. This is what she says about an occultist. So, this is one question I thought which will be of interest to many. Occultism is something which we are all interested, we want to study. So, who is an occultist? She had given a very clear explanation. And I'll give just one more. How members can help the society. First, by studying and comprehending the theosophical doctrines so that they may teach others, especially the young people. So how we can help the society, the theosophical society, is first by studying and comprehending the theosophical doctrines so that they may teach others, especially the young people. Secondly, by taking every opportunity of talking to others and explaining to them what theosophy is and what it is not. This is very important. That's why we said what we said in the beginning. Theosophy is everything, but everything is not theosophy. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. There is a question from Dr. Veena Singh from Banaras.
Okay.
Her question is theosophy a scientific approach for understanding spirituality?
Yes. Theosophy, as she has explained in the Secret Doctrine also, is a synthesis of religion, philosophy and science. So that's one of the methods by which we seek our knowledge. So science definitely has a place, has a role to understand the details of what spirituality is all about. Spiritual, what exactly we mean by spiritual, we have to approach it scientifically. It's not something we simply say, we don't see that, so that is spiritual. No. So how exactly we approach the spiritual content is like a scientist does, by going methodically, understanding a concept of the physical science. So there is a lot of relationship of science and spirituality. Yes, very true.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Any other
Yes,
question?
yes.
Yes, I have a question. That you said that only 3 members at least are required to run a lodge. Is it so?
Yes, that's exactly what you
Yes,
said.
sir. Yes,
That's
and
exactly what you said.
yes, this only 3 members can run the lodge, and their children participating.
See, the future of the
Yeah.
Theosophical Society, she said, somebody raised a question rather despondently saying, what sort of future do you have? What sort of future do you have? She said then, if three sincere members are there, the Theosophical Society is on. It will carry on.
So,
And
is there
who will
is there
add?
any?
Who will add to the members? Who will add to the members? She expects the children of the Theosophical Society, members already who are members of the Theosophical Society, their children will carry on the torch. That's what she said.
Okay, okay. And one more question: is there any elections needed for that pad?
काइंडली रिपीट मैडम, अब थोड़ा हिंदी में बोल सके?
हाँ, नहीं कहना मुझे ये है कि 3 मेंबर्स से थियोसॉफी चल जाएगी, तो लॉज रन करने के लिए जो पोस्ट लगती है, क्या वो 3 लोगों में बट सकती है, या वो जरूरी है, या एक में के कंसर्न से रन कर सकते हैं हम?
If you are talking about the method of running a lodge, she was talking about the continuance of the Theosophical Society as such. 3 can become 5, 5 can become 7, 7 can become 10. That's how it can grow. But if we are talking about a lodge formation, I think later on, Brother Alcott, when he went around, he was in charge of all the administration. He said 7 members is a minimum number we expect for a lodge to have. 3 can form a center. That's what he said. Study center can be formed by 3. A lodge can be formed by 7. That's what he said. That's what he did.
What are those posts, please? Can you?
Post. See, all these posts are something which we have created for the sake of administrative reasons. One is the president who gives the directions, the secretary who actually does the legwork of moving around and trying to organize programs, etc. The president who gives directions, the person who is a treasurer who takes care of the resources if there are any.
Okay. Okay. And hello.
Yes, another question, Krishna sir. Vinita Karla from Banaras. How the Theosophy explain the mechanism of prayer?
Oh. Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Lord Sati, member, form the law.
Krishna sir, there is another question. You can go to the SMS, you will find. Or Vinita, if you can ask also. The question is, how Theosophy explain the mechanism of prayer? Krishna sir, to your question.
Is that the question? How philosophical prayer is to be done? Is that the question?
No, question is,
Hello.
Yeah.
I got a question. How can we propagate the theosophy in common mass of people struggling in everyday complications.
Hold on, just let him
Hello,
answer the first.
1 second, 1 second. He's disturbing.
how we can propagate the theosophy in common mass of people struggling with everyday complications.
Disturbance because there's some other call came through of another meeting. So I would like you to kindly repeat the question for my sake, please.
Yes.
Hello.
First, just a minute.
Yeah, please tell me, sir. Please tell me.
Just a
Propagation
minute,
of
just a
theosophy in
minute.
common mass of people, that is my problem.
Pardon me?
There is a first question. Kindly bear with me.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. There is a first question from Binita. Yes, Binita, can you put your question straight?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, I would like
Yes.
to know. Good morning, everyone. I would like to know that how Theosophy explains the mechanism of prayer.
See, the prayer as practiced by the members of the Theosophical Society, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
The prayer as practiced by the members of the Theosophical Society is not by following certain rituals or certain methods which have been handed over to us over a period of time. It is actually opening up your heart and trying to reach the ultimate. No question of seeking anything, that I want a better job or I want a better vehicle. I'm just giving examples. There could be any other method of seeking the favors of God. So theosophical prayer doesn't mean or doesn't suggest that submitting a petition of what you wish list of what you want to have, that's not a prayer. Prayer is something which you open up your heart and present so that the divine influence can enter into your heart. That's how the prayer has to be done. It's not for the sake of seeking something. That's what she said. So she didn't believe in that sort of a prayer where perhaps certain practices are undertaken or certain superstitions are followed or certain methods are followed. That's not the prayer according to Madame Blavatsky. And this is what she has said. So the deity in whom we have faith is eternal, and we do not know whether it is he or she or it for that matter. We don't know whether sort of a form exists. Man has invented a form and starts praying to that form, seeking what he wants. This is not a prayer. That's what she was wanting to explain. So she said it is actually by opening up one's heart. It is not using words actually. We don't use words and repeat certain sentences actually to say that I'm praying. So it is without words, just opening up one's heart. And she told the Westerners that you get to know the Father, get to know the ultimate principle by opening up your heart and trying to reach Him by raising your level of consciousness to that of Him. That's the prayer which she thought was the correct way of praying, not submitting a wish list.